When you hear this, what do you feel? At IMAX, you'll feel transported by our unique sound system and crystal clear images. Like you're running across a desert planet or defending your city from a surprise invasion. With immersive IMAX sound and screens curved to show more, we take fans to the edge of their seats. Get tickets to Dune Part 2 now and experience it in IMAX's exclusive expanded aspect ratio.
Bernigan, 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 ABCs.
Welcome to the Bare Naked ZYXs, where we discuss every Bare Naked Lady song of the last two albums in reverse alphabetical order. Joining me tonight is a person who never complained that she's had enough, Betsy.
Maybe you just didn't hear me complain, Tracy. That is the trouble, Tracy. Tracy's deaf. We love you, Tracy.
I am deaf. I am hard of hearing, so. Also joining me tonight is the other person that holds it down while I'm not around, Aaron.
But I complain a lot.
Well done.
Yeah, I heard it when I was editing last week's episode. And Heidi, I never asked you how you're holding up.
I'm holding. Like Texas Hold'em. Maybe I'm not showing all my cards right now, but I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm holding on. Holding
And
that.
so tonight, if you haven't picked up on the little hints,
Sorry.
tonight we are discussing, if you didn't pick up on the hints, the song Wake Up off from...
Grab a brush, put on a little makeup.
Wake me up before you go. Don't leave me hanging on like a solo.
Actually, can we discuss that song instead?
Yes.
We could discuss Wake Up by Arcade Fire.
I'm okay with that.
Ooh.
No, Jonathan Colton, please. Thank you.
Tonight's song is Wake Up from Bare Naked Ladies. And if you have never heard this song before, it's because it's off their new album
did
from
Tracy
last year.
freeze?
And
Is
here
it-
is a quick snippet.
Wake up, I'm coming up. Did you get through the night? Did the room start to spin? The walls go upside down.
Does anyone have a guess on who wrote tonight's song?
It rhymes with Blevin Blurn.
Was it Michael Philip Wayota?
Levin Blur.
No. Wrong rhyme.
No, this is
I'm going with
it rhymes
Jimmy.
with him
Jimmy.
fleeing.
Jimmy.
Fleekin', that's right. Now, tonight's song is written by Jim Cregan, and Aaron and Heidi, would you like to give us a breakdown?
Absolutely.
You go, Aaron, because
Thank you,
I got
Pam.
nothing.
Okay, fair. Okay, well, actually, so I definitely want to hear you weigh on this on the very first part I'm going to talk about here, Heidi, which is I claim that Wake Up was recorded at 168 beats per minute, considering if you're counting it in 12/8, which it feels like 12/8 to me. I saw in a video that Tyler referred to it as 6/8. And I would guess, essentially we're splitting hairs here in a music nerd way because we're just talking about subdivision at this point. But I would call this 12/8. It is interesting, though, that the tempo at 12/8 is 1/6/8. How would you count this, Heidi?
I think you're right. I think it's a 12/8. Yeah.
Because if you're counting the snare hits as 2 and 4, it's like 1,
Yeah,
2, 3,
yeah. I
4,
would
5,
agree with
6.
you there. Yeah. I agree with you on that. It's a little bit complicated.
Tyler, come on the show. We know you listen.
When the rhythm isn't in 4/4, it gets
It is a
me
little
so
complicated.
frustrated. Sorry. Even though
Avril
I really
Lavigne, we know
do
you
like
listen. Come on the show.
12/8, but as a band director, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Oh,
7,
yeah.
8, 9,
Conducting
10, 11,
12/8
12.
is nuts.
1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You really need to emphasize the 1 so that everyone can realign if
Yeah.
they get a little lost.
Yep. And for those band geeky kids out there, I feel you. 12/8 is no joke. It's a fraction. Boogie woogie
It
woogie.
is. It's boogie woogie woogie. So yeah, I would say it's split. I would say it's a time 8. It's time 8. It's a 12/8 time signature. I would say, it's at 168 beats per minute. It is in the key of E major. I feel like that's beyond dispute. The verse changes are quite simple. Essentially, it's E major to F sharp minor 7. There's a bit of variation. It's not always played as a 7, maybe, or there's like sometimes an implied B major, like pivot chord between the two. But the verse is essentially E major to F sharp minor 7 by my estimation. Would you agree, Heidi?
I would concur with that, Aaron.
I
Absolutely.
concur, Senator.
I concur, Senator.
The chorus is a little more active. It goes from A major to E major, first inversion, which I would call also E over G sharp, to F sharp minor 7 to C sharp minor 7. And then there's no bridge. The form is verse 1, verse 2, chorus, verse 3, verse 4, chorus, chorus, outro. So AAB, AABB, or ABAB.
Which is different than abacab, abacab.
Or abracadabra.
Or
If you wanna say
Jenny
no.
Chud and grab ya.
Yep. Old school. Crank.
It's no, I'm talking about Wake Up Now, not abracadabra. It's a nice sort of like 12/8 blues sort of inspired pop ballad. I think it's kind of pretty. And that's about all I have to say about that, to quote Forrest Gump. Oh, you were asking Betsy, who is trying to hide now, what she thought of the song.
Yes, Betsy, what are your thoughts on the music of the song?
Betsy is just disappearing into her chair. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that.
So we're going to switch gears to feelings now. Are we going to talk about our feelings?
I mean, that is my profession. But no.
Oh, man. I'm in a session. Wake up, man.
Yeah, everyone wants to wake up from that nightmare. Don't worry.
So if you're asking me what I think about the song, I'm going to tell you.
Well, just the music, at least for now.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's making more sense. So just the music alone seems programmatic to the lyrics. It's kind of gentle, kind of ethereal, which, given the narrative, makes sense. And that's about all I got. It fits with what he's saying, which we'll get into next, I assume. But it's totally a gym song. It's chill, it's pretty, it's well thought out. So.
I've got to say that I'm not sure that I like the very beginning of the song. I would probably
not?
take out the first 10 seconds of the song.
It's warming you up.
Are you saying the intro is too long and it just vamps on like E major?
No,
for too
it's
long,
the part that I would get rid of is the drums kicking in and then that weird synth noise before any of the rest
Hard
of the
disagree.
music kicks in. I'll put a quick piece of it in here. I like it once the bass kicks in.
It's setting the mood, sir.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's setting the table.
Yeah.
The table, which, by the way, I have a question for you, Tracy. Why did you leave the keys on the table?
Nice.
You can't see this, but I'm giving Aaron a glare.
Oh, nice.
System of a Down, we know you listen. Come on the show.
But yeah, that the part before the bass kicks in is the part that I don't like. Once the bass kicks in, I feel like the song proper begins, and I like
So
that.
do you not like it because you don't know that it's kind of trying to mimic an alarm clock, or is it just that weird thing you have with you don't like pretty much any synth and pops and bells and whistles and whirligigs?
I'm not a fan of... I'm not a fan of pops and whistles and synthy things anyways. I like piano a lot more.
And I asked her, how do you look so great?
that noise right there. It's
actually,
funny because when I was listening into it today, my son started making noises whenever it would make the noises, and I'm like, that's just as annoying
Well,
as
I was going to
song.
say, that's going to boost the annoyance level right there. Also, now that you mentioned it, and I hate that this is where my mind goes now, thank you for that. It reminds me of the intro to Wonderful Christmas Time.
Yes. Yes.
Damn it.
Thank you.
still
I
like
do like that in verse number 4, he picks up the speed. Like the rhythm of the song doesn't pick up, but instead of doing those holds between each line, he goes right into the next line.
Wake up, I'm coming up, bringing my pickup truck. Let's get on down to the lake. Maybe there's a path to take.
I'm scared of what Betsy's writing now.
Don't be afraid. It's okay. This is great podcasting where we just read the messages in silence off to the side.
So good. So good.
Do you know how much
good.
editing
Yeah.
it requires me to...
For engaging our audience.
I love how we go from
Amazing.
0 people talking to 4 people talking at once.
Yeah.
It's got to be great to listen to.
I also think that the song works really well with the voice that Jim picks. So I think if he had gone a octave lower, it would have sounded depressing and less empathetic. But because he decided to go with that higher tone, I think it does come off as much more serene and empathetic.
It is serene.
I concur.
Well, but before we discuss what the song is about, let's see if we have any sponsors that want to tell us about them.
Hey, Pantheon listeners, Christian Swain here. You caught me just finishing up some editing on Getting Real with John and Beth. I want to share my first experience with Factor Meals for you. I think you'll find this interesting because I bet the same thing happens to you. I had just received my first shipment from Factor Meals the other day, and I was excited to try one of the prepared restaurant quality meals for myself. Anyway, I was working away and noticed it was very late, and it was my night to make dinner. I jumped up and headed to the kitchen, went to grab the ingredients for the dish I was going to make, and realized I was missing a prime ingredient. Well, I could make a run to the store, or I could make one of my new Factor meals. Actually, the choice was easy. I grabbed a cavatappi, an Italian-style pork ragu with garlic broccoli, heated the oven per instructions, and minutes later was enjoying a very delicious, nutritious, and dietitian-approved meal. It really was everything Factor Meals said it would be. No prep, no mess meals. Factor Meals are 100% ready to heat and eat. Take it from me and head to factormeals.com/Pantheon50 and use the code Pantheon50 to get 50% off. That's factormeals.com/Pantheon50 and use the code Pantheon50 to get 50% off.
Started with
Nope, no one right now.
With we have like a Sylvania alarm clock advertisement or anything we need to put on there?
That's right.
Westinghouse. Come on.
Well, it sounds like Aaron has listened to the behind the scenes track by track, and I know that Heidi has because I know that Betsy has because Betsy put it into the chat. So Heidi, have you listened to the track by track, and do you know what the song is about?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Ruin all my fun.
Go.
Well, let's just discuss what the damn song's about then.
I did listen to the track by track, and it made so much sense after I had already kind of come to a conclusion about the lyrics. It became very close to home for me. I think as it did for Betsy, as it has for some of us. Especially dealing with Alzheimer's in my family and watching my aunt care for my grandmother with Alzheimer's, and then watching my cousin deal with my aunt who then got Alzheimer's after she had already cared for my grandma. And trying to, and it's not just about caregivers of, I can't cry, I can't do this. But it's also it could be as simple as the caregivers of the household that do everything. Well, somebody's traveling a lot. And it's like you just have to do it. You have to keep going on. And there's nobody coming up to go, "Hey, how are you doing? Are you okay?" And the more I listened to it, and especially after I heard Jim talking about it, it hit so close for me. With the amount, we're in our 50s, we're all moving towards our 50s. I just hit 50, and if you're not there yet, I know most of you'll be there soon. We're all in that same like 10-year bracket. And our parents are getting older, and our grandparents are older or gone or close to gone. And it's this one definitely hit about, I'm not, and I felt guilty listening to it. I'm like, I don't do this. Like I did. This was when this song totally related to me when my best friend lost her mom to cancer. And I was checking in with her a lot. And this was about 15 years ago. And her mom was like my mom, because my mom was an evil, she was not a good mom. And so I treated my best friend's mom like my mom. I thought of her, I called her Mama Rossi. And you met my best friend at the concert this summer. And Laura May and I have been best friends since we were 12. And when her mom passed from cancer, I was there the last night. The last night. And if anybody's ever seen somebody at the end stages of cancer, I was so struck by how strong Laura May was. I love you so much, Laura May, if you're listening. Because I was with her that one night, and that one night seemed like 1,000 nights. Because Mama Rossi was non-coherent at that point, and she would wake up from her meds and she would thrash, and all of her limbs would become almost frozen. Like and then we'd have to massage her arms out and get her calm again. And almost every 20 to 30 minutes, we were doing the same routine. And I spent the entire night doing that because she was at end stage hospice in the living room of the house that I spent so many nights when I was a teenager, up late into the night talking to my best friend, cruising Elm Street in Manchester. And Mama Rossi would be like in the next morning, make us breakfast. And it was in the living room of that house that she passed. And it just broke my heart, because I was trying to be there for her, and I realized more and more when this song happened, it was like, I'm coming up, I'm going to help you out, I'm going to be there for you. What do you need? Don't even tell me, because they won't tell you what they need.
Right.
So anyway, I can't say much more but this song,
because Percy won't let you.
We don't have a song for those people.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Maddie. Unfortunately, I've lost people to to cancer and to some pretty difficult illnesses, and seeing people, really strong people who are always taking care of others. It's really hard. When someone I care about is hurting, my first impulse is to help, but sometimes it's hard to know what to do or offer. Sometimes the only things you can do seem so trivial, like making them a cup of tea or whatever, like the lyrics in the song, right? But those little gestures can make a huge difference in someone's day, if only to remind them that they do have people who care about them. So I would encourage anyone who has a loved one or friend or relative or whomever that's going through a tough time, it's nothing is trivial. Whatever you can do, even just check in, saying hi, I would say do it. I have struggled myself with asking for help or even accepting help in the past. I'm getting better at that, so that's cool. But I think the people who are so busy helping others, they don't really have the time to think
This song
about
makes
it,
me think of a friend that Aaron and I know very well.
So be proactive.
I'll just call him Jake, and I think about Jake a lot. And unfortunately, I live a long ways away from him. But he's literally given up everything in his life, and I mean everything, in order to take care of his dad, who has dementia. And life is a living hell for him. He lives in poverty. He's dealing with wondering if he's going to be able to heat the house for the winter, every winter, and all this while taking severe verbal abuse from his father. And you can't blame his dad, because he's going through dementia, and he's completely disconnected from reality, and it's getting worse every day. And all the while his siblings, sit there and say that he's filching off his parents and taking advantage of them and reporting him to DHS for not doing enough. And the truth is, we don't give enough credit to the people who caretake for those who need it. As a society, we're living longer than we ever have, and we're not living more quality lives as we get older. We're just living longer lives many times, and these situations are becoming more frequent. And our society needs to respect our elders, but also respect those who take care of the elders, because it's a hard job, especially if the person is doing it in an advanced stage themselves. I have an extended family member who's been taking care of his wife since COVID, and COVID has been causing her body to attack itself constantly, and she's in constant pain and dealing with nephritis and repeated hospital stays, and he's advancing in his years as well, but most nights he's up taking care of her, but also watching the person that he loves go through all this pain and slowly hating life. And I don't, like Jim, I don't live close to my parents. I don't live nearby. And so, I can try to go up and take care of the caregiver when I can, but all the time there's this guilt as well of I'm not doing what I can to take care of this person. And even though it's his wife, yes, he made that in sickness and in health pledge, but because we're living longer lives, that means something very different today than it did a long time ago. And it's hard to watch people be that caretaker in those later years. And we as a society aren't surrounded by our families anymore. It used to be that family didn't live far apart, so the onus of it was spread out a lot more, and now it's not as spread out because people are further away, and it's usually leaving it to one person to take on all of that. And it just reminds me that we need to remember that, and we need to be empathetic to those people that are taking that on and care for them as well.
Yeah, I think as the oldest too, it generally falls on either the quote unquote oldest of the family or the most responsible, if you will. My husband is one of nine, but it always falls on him because he's, I don't know, the most successful, the closest to his parents, whatever, and they've both passed now. But it when it came down to responsibilities, he had to take on a lot of that emotional and physical burden, because so many disappear, except for when it comes time to clean out the house of things that they want. And so family dynamics also play a role into that after people pass. Um, and and also the person that you knew and loved as your parent is no longer that person. I watched, like, again with Mama Rossi as a reference, say things that were so mean and horrible, and she never ever was like that. But the pain and the loss of her mind was gone. She was so on so many drugs. She was end like the cancer had so ravaged her. She was a shell of the human that she had been, that I remembered so fondly. And like my grandma too, like she was so gone with Alzheimer's and dementia. She thought her parents were coming to pick her up from kindergarten, and she talked to her stuffed animals and lined them up. And it was, and but then she would get so angry when you would ask her, why she hid her food around the house. And because they're not, everything you remember and love and know about that person doesn't exist. They don't even know who you are half the time, and they take such abuse. Caretakers take a tremendous amount of abuse, because the person that they're caring for doesn't know that they're treating them that way. And so it calls to question, like, I know this is wrong, and ethically I'm probably going to hell, but I've told my husband a million times, if I get to that point, figure out a way to end it, because I don't want my children or my husband, who I love dearly, to have to go through that torture of their spouse, their mom, the one that loves them the most, is calling them terrible names, doesn't know who they are, and is treating them like garbage because they have no control over their memory or what they're doing anymore. And I volunteered at an elderly facility for quite some time. I used to go there once a month or once every couple of weeks, and I would sing songs in the elderly home because they love music, and it's one of the last things of the memory to go. And I would go and sing and they would sing along to you name a song from the 1950s, or like Take Me Out to the Ball Game, or a patriotic song, or a song from childhood. They know every word. Every Christmas carol, they know every word. But then they would turn around and berate the nurse for moving their blanket. So it's this really weird dichotomy. I'm going to apologize now because I'm on my new laptop. For some reason, my Zoom is not the right Zoom. So we might have to go out and come back in. So I'm going to apologize for that now. But it is I don't know how people that work in elderly care facilities and nursing homes and hospice, I don't know how they do it.
What I was going to say about Wake Up was that it kind of was a little bit triggering for me because the first line that they open with about, like, did the room spin? Did the walls turn upside down? And I have vertigo. I haven't had it for a while, but it is, like, not pleasant. So it's funny. I was talking to my doctor about, vertigo and everything and triggers. And she's like, actually, when people get older, like to their elderly stage, they kind of lose the ability to sense how thirsty they are. So their body actually can start to dehydrate without them really realizing that they're actually getting dehydrated, which can cause, electrolyte imbalances and things like vertigo. So that is something that older people can experience just by not taking care of themselves, right? So like the whole premise is who takes care of the caretaker. If the caretaker isn't taking care of themselves, you might get something like that. So I really liked. I don't know if that's what his intention was, but it was definitely something that I immediately thought of because, it's a medically based thing that I guess some senior citizens or 70s or whatever experience. So
That's really interesting.
And then the other piece, the non-medical piece, the personal experience piece, was just that and I think I've told you this too, and I'm open, I don't care. It's news that's already been shared from our family, but so my mom has Parkinson's. She was just diagnosed last year, and then my dad had to have ended up being a double bypass and a resection. He had a heart surgery like in November. So literally it was like a caretaker taking care of a caretaker, and then my brother got involved because I have a 7-year-old who's, sorry Alice, I love you, but you're a lot. So we were just trying to kind of hold down the fort, and so my brother stepped in, and he was kind of ad hoc caretaker, advocate, and everything else. So it's just a weird stage of life where you're like just trying to keep your head above water and trying to remember that people that looked after you now need to be looked after. And it's just this really weird plot twist in life where it's just like, I guess this is the new norm. Yeah. And, things kind of come full circle eventually. So, I mean, and of course we're happy to do it, but it's just this big balancing act of, helping, even when the help isn't necessarily vocalized, so like checking in on people, making sure they're eating and drinking and sleeping, and that their roommate in the hospital isn't some weird druggie that just came down from another floor, which happened. Yeah. So, and yeah, I mean, it was nice because my ex-husband was one of his nurses too. And so he would check in with me and I would check in with him, and he'd say, oh yeah, this doctor's great and that doctor. And so, just kind of supporting each other and checking in. And I see we have 8 minutes left, but that was pretty much all I wanted to add. And without getting more mascara running today, that's basically what I wanted to add.
That's a really good point, though, and as society has changed, it's getting more difficult, and we are taking care of our caregivers a lot more, and it's around this time that it begins to start to happen, and it's hard.
I really wish that sometimes that I was close to my family, because it is so much easier not to have to drive 4 hours north to just check in and spend time and things like that. So yeah, I think I would be most comfortable in the days of like everybody lived in the same town still, but jobs being what they are, there's not a whole lot
exactly
up in my hometown. And I'm not even the smallest hometown up there, but it's it makes it difficult to make family the focus when you kind of also have to sustain a career and raise a family and everything. So, yeah.
Are we on a lighter note now? Because, but I will say, just to sum up, I'm so appreciative for Jim for finally tackling this, because I don't think I've ever heard a song that is related to this. And it also
I think originally
it could also, it could be interpreted, even though we know it, that this is what it's about. It could also be interpreted to that friend that just needs help, that's on the edge, and you're like, it's gonna be okay, I'm gonna come get you, even if you tell me that you're fine. You might be on the edge of doing something bad to yourself. You could be on a break, like heading towards a mental break. And there's only a few songs that I've heard recently, and I was blown away, and my husband loves one of them. And it's basically about this guy's friend that is like gonna take his own life, and he's like, no, you, like, I'm here for you. And this could be interpreted that way too. You know what, I'm just coming anyway. You can't tell me to stay home. I'm coming anyway, and I'm gonna check on you. We're gonna do something. We're gonna get you away from this situation.
Yeah. And then Jim didn't say it in the video, but I think it's kind of implied. It sounds like originally he was singing about his wife, which is, I'm glad that it's not what it ended up being, about that caretaker who stays home during a tour, because it sounds like almost all the other, if that were the original theme, it sounds like all the other songs on this album and the theme of this album. And honestly, we're 3 songs in so far, and I'm ready for a break from that theme. Not that I don't understand it, but I'm just hearing different people sing about exactly the same thing is really kind of grating on me.
The very definition of rumination. You digest it, you bring it back up. You digest it, you bring it back up.
And I like the fact that this song is about something slightly different now. About the, we get a change in, and this is, as you were saying, Heidi, something that isn't talked about enough, isn't brought to the forefront enough, and I'm glad that by happenstance it did morph into that discussion and into that topic.
Well, we're just expected to be so strong, especially us Gen Xers. Like, we are expected to, like, that one line of, you hold it down when I'm not around. I never asked you how you're holding up. You just go on with your life. Like, I got my job, I got my kids, I got my stuff, and I've never, oh my gosh, Laura May, I should have called her every day. How are you today? And you don't, because you're like, until you're dealing with it yourself. Like, I didn't call my Aunt Barbara every day and go, Auntie Barb, are you okay? How is Grandma today? I didn't, because we've got our own stuff. And we just assume, because they hold it down, they keep going day to day. They're like, no, it's fine. I'm just doing. And then you realize they're going to support groups for caretakers of Alzheimer's patients. They're doing all these things so that they don't lose their minds. And they don't complain. They're like, no, I've got it. It's fine. And the whole, you put in full days, and who heard you say never complain once you've had enough? Nobody hears. Like, they might in quiet, like, I'm taking on all this. My aunt, who is the oldest of 8, my sister's my mother's oldest sister, my mother was the youngest of 8. And my grandma's daughter is the same age, or my aunt's daughter was the same age as my mother. So that's how much separation is in that family. So my cousin is my mom's age. And she never once complained. And she just did it because that's what the expectation was. There were 7 other siblings. Nobody else picked up the phone. They all were all over the place because she was doing it. Well, she's got it. And I think it's an important thing for us to remember, as simple as this song is, because there's no chorus, it is ethereal, and it's not it's a weirdly not sad song the way he sings it. It's
Right.
like hopeful and friendly, and it
Mhm.
almost reminds me of like being on a beach. Like, I don't know, it's got this weird like beach kind of sound to it in my ears. And I almost hear seagulls. Like, and maybe it's because the album cover like kind of reminds me of that, but it's also like it reminds me of beaches. Like, because I'm a chick, and that whole like she cares for her very best friend, and she's caring for her through the end, and she's always there for her friend. Like it, so it for me, it's a song about friendship. It's a song about looking out for those that you know are taking on so many things, but it's not depressing like everything sucks. I don't know. It's a weird song.
It's interesting that you mentioned a beach. For me, I actually envisioned kind of a grassy hill on a cloudy day, but you're like flying a kite, which is like that hope, you know?
I was picturing clouds too,
Yeah, I
something
get that
misty
too,
or
yeah.
cloudy.
Like I was thinking not like a sunny day at the beach. You know those like spring, late April, early May days, especially in New England beaches. I wasn't thinking like Jamaica Beach. Oh, that's Jamaica. But you're right. Like,
No,
you know,
that's not
those
tropical, but no, I know what
semi-cloudy,
you mean.
it's not really full sun yet. It's kind of chilly. Nobody's out there. Yeah, I totally see that. Yeah.
And see, to me, I was envisioning while I was listening to the song, riding in a pickup truck down a dirt road, just spending time one-on-one in the car with like, for me, like with my dad, just kind of just talking and reminiscing and taking his mind off all the things that are weighing on him and kind of having that kind of conversation in a relaxed kind of tone.
You know, I also take it too, though, if I hadn't heard Jim and really started digging into it, I think when I first heard it, I actually thought of my own relationship with my husband, because where it says, how about we go downstairs, put the kettle on, you hold it down when I'm not around. Like, I think of spouses that are deployed and the wife is home taking care of everything when their spouse is deployed, or like working on an oil rig. I have a dear friend whose husband was always away because he was working on oil rigs out of Texas, and she was 1,000 miles away. Or my husband, who travels constantly, and then he'll get home on a Saturday and he'll be like, you know what? I got this. Don't worry. I don't want you to do anything today. You always hold the fort. You take care of all the bills. You take care of the house, like, so that I can do what I have to do. So I also think it could be in a lighter way. It could be about those situations as well. It doesn't always, I mean, that's the beauty. Though we know what Jim was talking about, it also represents any individual that is holding down the fort so another person can do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that goes on a day-to-day basis that some spouses never realize. And it's like, if you knew, I don't know if anybody ever saw the mini series From the Earth to the Moon. I'm kind of a rabidly obsessed Apollo missions, Mercury 7 missions kind of history buff. And the series From the Earth to the Moon had an episode of the wives, and it was just on the perspective of the wives. And Jim Lovell's wife, he comes home after a mission. They're moving from Houston, and he finds these medical like bracelets or something in a drawer when they're cleaning out their kitchen. And he's like, "What are these?" She goes, "Oh, when the kids had their tonsils out." He goes, "I never even knew that." She's like, "Yeah, I never told you because we were, we didn't tell you anything that you did not need to know because we didn't want you to worry when you were in the middle of a mission." And I think about all of the things that a lot of moms, no offense to dads, but if moms do when, because I mean, I think about the amount of appointments we set, the amount of parent-teacher conferences we deal with, the amount of like all the school paperwork and bills or things that we do that just like even loading and unloading the dishwasher 5 times a day, like those kinds of things that if they never got done, if we shut down, what do we do? Like my husband would have no clue, not a clue about how things got done because I don't worry you with that stuff because you have so much going on at work and that's okay. But occasionally it's nice to be told, I got this. I'm going to come. I'm going to get you out of the house and take you away, which is all I wanted for my 50th birthday. I was like, take me away. I don't want to worry about a thing. I don't want to make a decision. I don't want to do anything. So I though we know it's more about caregivers, I think caregivers is a wide net. It's the caregiver of your home, and that could be male, female, it doesn't matter. It could be whoever does all of those things on the daily basis that you never even think about because they're done. You make it look easy. I'm often told that as a teacher. How did you do that? You made it look so easy. It took years to get that good to make it look so easy, like a professional basketball player. Like it just, and that's what our caregivers do. They make it look easy, but they're carrying so much.
Well, and so in respect for our caregivers, why don't we rate this on how many caregivers that we believe this song should have? So I'm going to go first with you, Heidi, if that's all right. I would like to know how many.
I've talked so much tonight, everybody. This one hit me really hard.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad to hear your.
We've missed your voice.
Aw, have you really? And I know this is a hard one for a lot of folks to talk about. Is it a 5? No. I think it's a very important song. I like the way Jim sings it. But for me, it does sound a lot like some of Jim's other songs. And that's like, I almost, when I started listening to it, I was like, wait a minute, is that, there's another song that almost sounds exactly the same. And it'll come to me. It'll come to me, but it's got a similar kind of vibe to it as this one, and Jim sings it. I like the lyrics a lot. I think it's, again, a good song. But I would give it around, I'm going to fight with myself over this. I think I'm going to give it a 3.8 caregivers right now, but that might change.
Okay. Betsy, you've been kind of quiet. How many caregivers do you give this song?
I guess kind of similarly opinionated about it as you guys. I would say my score went up after I saw the video of them explaining what it was, because then it kind of clicked in my brain. So I guess I would give it a 4.1.
Okay. Aaron, how about yourself?
Very nice. Interesting. Well, I was going to give it a 3.95, but then Tracy had to go and associate it with Wonderful Christmas Time for me. So I'm going to say 3.85 caregivers. It is a very good song.
Well, I think that's going to make me the hater this week. Jeez. I would say that I like the song. It's not, and on this album, it's actually, I like the song the most so far. But that's also not saying much. The song is very serene and relaxed. It's one of those songs I would listen to when it comes on, and just kind of let it wash over me. But I also wouldn't be thinking much about it. And the reason is, I think, not so much because of the song, but because of where things are in my life. I am mostly trying to do a lot of detachment right now from a lot of pain. And so any of that would not be caused by the song. So I'm not going to be taking down the points on the song, anything for that. But it is a beautiful song. I'm gonna say a 3.31. This week's song was Wake Up, but next week Tyler is going to tell us his wake up story about a time when he woke up on Christmas Eve in the middle of the night.
I know.
Imagine that. It's almost like we just talked
Seems
about it for
vaguely
half
familiar
hour.
somehow.
All right. And so join us next week as we discuss the song.
Song. Yes, we discuss songs every week.
As we
Which one
discuss
would you
the
like?
song, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas on Pearl Street. ...
I'm like, are you switching gears? What's going on? Switching horses midstream.
I was like, which one? Wait.
There's
I hate it when I get this all mixed up.
gears. I
was trying to, but the gears did not want to work.
Twice.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Have a wonderful evening. Always a pleasure.